Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Michelle Rosar, and I'm the Assistant Director of Graduate Enrollment here at Temple University's School of Sport, Tourism, and Hospitality Management. I'm joined here today with Dr. Ceridwyn King, Associate Professor and Chair of the Department of Tourism and Hospitality Management. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
To give a brief background, Dr. King joined STHM faculty in 2011. Since her start, she was named to the Dean's Research Honor Roll in 2013 and was awarded the Outstanding Teacher Award in 2014. More recently, this past year, she was also named the Paul Anderson Research Fellow. So, thanks. All right, so today's topic is going to be around management adaptability. We're going to talk about how to stand out from a crowd in the growing hospitality industry. We're going to take a deeper look into the mindset of an effective manager. What are some of the strategies, processes, design aspects of creating and evaluating both service delivery and service excellence in the hospitality industry? Before we get started, I want to introduce to you Jamie Can. She's behind the camera, so you can't see her. But she's the Assistant Director of Marketing, and she's going to be helping answer questions during this interview. As you know, this is live, so feel free to comment, ask questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. Jamie's also going to be posting relevant resources and links throughout this cast, so feel free to kind of stay tuned and tag along some of the things that we're talking about. If you're watching this after the fact, you can still comment and we'll get back to you at a later date. Just as a note, this interview is a part of the Tourism and Hospitality 360 series. Keep an eye out for more 360 series events, interviews, information sessions over the next few months for a more comprehensive look into the STHM experience. So enough about that. We're going to get into the interview now. So I gave a brief background on your time at STHM, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background before STHM and really how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So my undergrad degree was a business degree in hotel management and marketing, and when I finished that, I became a corporate management trainee with Starwood Hotels and worked at a number of properties, Sheraton properties within Australia, and progressed up the career ladder from a marketing perspective. And my last job in industry, I was the head of marketing for Conrad Jupiter's on the Gold Coast, which was a 609-room facility, international showroom, convention centre, large casino, several bars and restaurants. And at that stage, I decided that perhaps that with my work experience and the things that I'd identified in industry, that I was also doing my master's at the time and identified an opportunity to do some further research to actually adapt what I was doing in industry in an academic world. And so I went and did my PhD and did my PhD at Griffith, and then was there for several years before coming across to Philadelphia.
Well, we're happy you came to Philadelphia.
Thank you.
One of the positions that you mentioned was the head of marketing at the Conrad Jupiter's Hotel and Casino. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your responsibility while you were there, some of the things that you did, and just a little bit more about your overall experience?
Sure. Conrad Jupiter's was unlike any of the other hotel properties that I'd worked in before. Because it was such a large entertainment and gaming facility, we had 2,500 employees. The marketing function there was very much strategic marketing as opposed to a sales operation, the role that I was in there. So when I left the Sheraton Mirage on the Gold Coast to take up that position, it was as a marketing executive. And then I transitioned into the head of marketing role in 2000. And in that role, my job was to reposition the organisation. It was somewhat fragmented. We had, as I said before, an international showroom, a convention centre, gaming facilities, and they were traditionally operating all in isolation, in silos. The competitive landscape on the Gold Coast had changed, and competing for that discretionary dollar became a lot harder, and we realised that we needed to develop a coherent experience. Mm-hmm. So my job as head of marketing was to try and reposition the property, which was a challenging feat, because not only did we have to do research from a consumer perspective and change the creative executions, the advertising, the promotional aspects of it, but we needed to make sure that we were delivering on that promise. And so a lot of my time there was in helping reposition the organisation, was working with the 2,500 employees that had been there a long time. Yeah, to get them to really understand why we were changing. And what that meant for them in their role, whether they were a dealer in the casino, whether they were a facility cleaner working in housekeeping or front office, what their role was in trying to bring that experience to life.
So it was a lot of sharing the research that you were doing with them and kind of keeping them up to speed.
Absolutely, because for a lot of the employees, they didn't necessarily know what was happening out in the broader market, the competitive landscape, and how that was putting financial pressures on us as an organisation. And so we really had to give them a reason to change what they were doing. And certainly the consumer research, traditionally you do the consumer research to help, from a marketing point of view, to help change your creative execution and how you inform the creative or the communication strategy. But it was most effective for us in actually sharing it with all the employees, from frontline level employees right through to the senior executives, about explaining how customers were seeing us and providing evidence as to why we needed to change. And it was also really important for us, once we made those changes, to help further solidify the buy-in from the organisation that you made a difference, because we actually could see how consumer attitudes had changed through not only the external communications, but as I said, actually the employees making changes with how they were engaging with customers on a day-to-day basis.
Awesome. So one of the themes it sounds like you're talking about is you're selling an experience. So when working with the employees to make sure that you're, not only selling a product, but you're also selling an experience, what are the most important skills and strategies a manager must have in order to ensure service excellence when selling an experience?
I think it starts with understanding how the customer sees, what they're buying from you. And you're right, it is an experience that we're selling. And while when we work from an operations point of view, we think about a room and its functional utilities, or a restaurant and so forth. And certainly when a guest comes to stay in our hotel or dine in our restaurant, yes, they want a bed, yes, they want food and beverage, but in essence they are buying that experience. And so a lot of those intangible elements, when you're actually working in the operations, it's sometimes you can forget those sorts of things. And so that's why the consumer research is really important, to help people who are focused on the day-to-day to really understand why customers are coming to you and how you need to facilitate all the aspects of what you have to offer to create a cohesive experience for them. And certainly, again, when we look at my experience with Conrad Jupiters, as I said, we had many departments that were all effective in their own right, but they were operating in silos. And so we needed to get them to understand that when a customer visited the facility, they were the same customer that went to the casino, were the same customer that went to the international showroom, that were the same customer that dined in the restaurants. And how do we work together in sharing that customer and sharing that insight to be able to provide that experience? So from a manager's perspective, it's understanding not only what you're responsible in doing, but also how your role connects with other aspects within the organisation, and sharing communication horizontally as well as vertically, to make sure, again, that customer experience collectively is what they're ultimately looking for.
So it sounds like when you're talking about a manager as a whole, in this certain mindset that they need to have in order to, best represent the organization as a whole, it seems like one of the things, obviously at STHM, we have our hospitality and tourism program. Why don't you talk a little bit about why it's important to pursue a degree in hospitality management in order to become a leader, in order to have this mindset that you need to be successful in running an organization?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the opportunities that's provided for people to undertake graduate education, even when they have a considerable amount of industry experience, is we provide the opportunity to step back and look more holistically at what's sort of happening. And as I said, it's very challenging. When you work in our industry often operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Once a hotel opens, it rarely shuts its doors. And even when you're working in a restaurant or running an event, when you're so focused on delivering a customer experience, sometimes it's very difficult to really think about the underlying issues and how to improve things. And so exploring graduate education provides you that opportunity to sort of step back and understand a little bit deeper about why things have happened. It also gives you the opportunity to look at different perspectives and perhaps challenge your own work experience and understand alternative views that perhaps in just working you don't get those alternative perspectives. And so what we try to do at STHM with our graduate program is to provide students a platform to explore different alternatives, to make connections or help interpret their previous experiences, but also provide them with a toolkit that when they continue on their career path to be able to look at multiple options and provide different alternatives to a solution that perhaps in the past, if they've only just had work experience, they only know what they know from their own previous work experience.
And we also have internship opportunities and things like that. Do you find that doing internships is really important for students to do, especially when they're not in the industry right away?
Yeah, but even for students that have worked in the industry, I think what the internship allows them to do is apply what we have been discussing in a classroom, and it also allows them to explore a little bit more about aspects perhaps of their previous work experience, or even what we've been talking about in class that they haven't had the opportunity to explore before. The internship really allows students that opportunity to try before you buy, if you like. Making a decision about what you want to do with your career isn't always clear, and I think that providing the internship experience and making that a mandatory component allows students that opportunity to sort of explore possible pathways before making a commitment.
Makes sense. So kind of on that note, talking about different opportunities, what advice would you give to anyone watching this right now, or any individual that's looking to really accelerate their career in the hospitality industry? What advice would you give to them?
I think just being open to opportunities and looking at training yourself to look at things in different ways, and perhaps not jumping to conclusions about one thing that on the surface seems to be right or not right. The great thing is about our industry, there are many different pathways that you can be successful in, and so I would encourage people to have a broad experience and try different things, but as I said, be open to possibilities, and pursuing one path doesn't mean that you're fixed on that path, but I would encourage people to try different things, and in trying different things you will have better confidence in yourself as to where your skill set lies and where you can be most successful.
Awesome. So I don't personally have any more questions. We can open it up to Q&A now. I'm not sure if anyone has asked any questions throughout the time, but we're going to open it up. Jamie, do you want to ask any questions?
So Tina wants to know if you could talk a little bit about the most exciting part about being the head of marketing at Conrad.
I was very fortunate very early on in my career to be able to work in an organisation like that. As I said before, it wasn't just a hotel. I mean, it had a casino and it had so many other things going on, and so every day was always new and exciting. But the excitement wasn't just the fact that there were a multiplicity of departments, and as a head of marketing I had different people to work with. It was the fact that what we were selling, the experience that we were selling, was escapism. People would come to that facility when you're going out to get away from everyday life, and I felt very privileged that I was part of a team that was about facilitating those experiences. And it doesn't help, it's not a bad thing either that when you work for a casino they have pretty good budgets, so when you imagine things you had the budgets there to be able to make things happen. So from creating, bringing international shows to Australia, like the Cirque du Soleil type things, creating comedy festivals, to bringing in large conventions. As I said, you were only limited by your imagination, so I feel very fortunate to have been able to have that experience at such a young age.
Awesome. Thanks, Tina, for asking the question. Do we have any other questions?
No, that was all for today.
All right, awesome. So to wrap everything up, we're going to conclude by doing something we like to call the Fast Five. So basically, I'm going to list out a few different categories. Let me know the first thing that comes to your head when I list these out.
Okay.
Okay. So first one, what is a book you're currently reading or your favorite book?
Not currently reading anything at the moment, but if I had to pick anything, it would be historical fiction. Anything historical fiction is right up my alley.
Sounds good. Who is your inspirational figure?
J.K. Rowling, from the fact that not only her life experience and being able to navigate things and be successful, I feel that I have an inner author in me somewhere, but I don't think I'll ever be as creative as her. But
Harry Potter is my everything. STHM in one word.
2 words, endless possibilities.
I like the way you expanded on the one word, 2 words. Favorite sports team?
Michelle told me it needs to be the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm okay with that.
Because we're doing amazing right now. Favorite vacation spot?
anywhere warm with the beach, as long as the water in the ocean is blue.
Makes sense. So nowhere around the East Coast.
No.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to hear about your experience. And thank you everyone for watching, for joining us. If you're interested in learning more about Dr. King, her link is going to be in the comment section to her LinkedIn. And if you're interested in our graduate programs or continuing your education, you can always schedule a time to speak with me, and Jamie will also put my Schedule Once link in the comment section as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.